twice? No, you did once.
No, just once.
Once.
Okay, it looks like you're typing.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm Michael Talbot, and this is my close-up Mr. DeMille. I want to talk about patinas and how they affect the sculpture. The patinas I do are quite particular to my process, and I've developed over a long time. And I've developed a series of patinas that are very thin colour layers. So one layer laps over another. So they're very, very thin, and they're built up, and you build from dark to light. So usually we start with a dark brown, and we add in different colours. But a lot of the effect comes from using heat. The heat makes a colour. It effectively burns the pigment. So you work with a blowtorch and a brush, and what you've actually got is an abstract painting. That's what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get the effect of floating. So a lot of my work is to do with having small contact areas. You get lots of sculpture, to my mind, is earthed because it has a big contact area. You can lose lots of energy. And part of the beauty of bronze is, from an engineering point of view, you can make very small contact areas. So you can create the illusion of floating and weightlessness. And I try to exaggerate that with colour by going from dark to light and having a visual plane that's floating. And I've developed the technique of using very, very thin patina chemicals that overlay. So what's this piece, for example, you'll see goes some dark. Through all the different layers and allows the colour to come through. And this one's in a grey palette, but when you start to use ochre palettes, you might have 2 dozen different colours that come through. And that can only be done by that method. It's very, very time consuming, and it is unique. We follow an effect rather than a pattern, and the effect is to the patinas are delicate in the sense that it's on metal, but they're as resilient as the paint on canvas. They will crack, and they will damage. So you need a certain discipline in handling it. It's wax and stone. We did that little damage earlier, so I can repair it. Lots of different chemicals. This particular one is using titanium. But I try, if you look into the ear, I leave the dark shadows in there, and it has a sort of black and white photograph effect. It enhances the form in the way that black colour never can. But they are each one is unique.
Are the patinas the more traditional patinas? Is that new for you? Is that something that you did on earlier work
The traditional
and then switched to this? Something like that's on the bathers?
Yes, I mean that's a very traditional brown patina that's been done historically. Brown and green is a very, I mean, you've done Frederick Hart for a long time, which is kind of brown and green patina. That tends to be quite a tough patina because the effect it's made with is effectively rust. It's ferric oxide, and the heat from the blowtorch opens up the pores of the metal, and as it cools, it grips the chemical. So to a large extent, the browns are part of the metal, so they're really quite resilient. And often if you do scratch them, in given enough time, they'll leach in ferric from around themselves and go back to being brown.
How does a patina, like on the Harlequin, hold up in time, like in somebody's home compared to one of
Well,
the
they're
more
stable.
traditional? They're stable.
They're completely stable. Yeah. They will evolve in the sense that over a very long period they'll get slightly darker, but not in any way you would ever notice. But they will rub and scrub. So they need the handling you would apply to a painting, because there is a thought, because they're bronze, there is a tendency to kind of handle them in a way you wouldn't handle a painting. But if you bring the delicacy you would normally handle a painting or two, they're fine.
How would a person wash it? Just dust it off then?
Just dust it. The sheen on them is done with wax, so you can polish them with wax, but once a year. And you wouldn't put the wax onto the sculpture; you put the wax onto a cloth, which is very, very thin, and that's all they'll ever need.
Like a carnauba wax?
I mean, furniture wax is fine. It's a soft wax, and that'll bring the shine up. But really, they're sealed by the hot wax process. Seals them, so the colours are locked in. And I want to develop the colours even further. I've gone quite far with that, but there's further to go. And really explore the abstract nature of colour and painting form, which would be my next phase of work, which is why I need to make them more consistent.
Are you able, as you put on the chemical, to see how it's going to transpire?
You can, but it's only in a translated way. The colour that you put on initially isn't the colour you get, but with experience you can judge. If you've done ceramics, where you're glazing one colour, when you fire it comes out another. But with experience you can judge what that's going to be.
What about these new editions that you're going to be releasing? Can you explain that and why you're doing that?
With
The 15 of each one, but you're doing the seasons?
yes,
The way you're releasing the new editions?
Yeah, we're doing them. The way they're done, these we make a clay from the clay. We then make a mould, and that mould will wear because we cast from the mould. We cast a wax. We pour into the mould liquid wax, which sets into a hard form. That wax is then encased in a ceramic material, placed into a kiln and fired, and the firing process turns the ceramic material into ceramic, rather like a pot, and the wax melts out. And then because the ceramic material is fired, it can take the thermal shock of molten bronze. So we pour the bronze into the gap left by the wax. And so I explained that if you wanted to make it, for example, if you wanted to make a bronze thumb, you decided to make a bronze thumb, you would make a mould of your thumb, which you would take off. Into that mould you would pour liquid molten wax, and it would set hard. You'd then pull out that wax thumb, so you have a wax thumb. The wax thumb you would cover in your ceramic material to about, again, as thick as a finger, so a thumb would render a ceramic object that's so big. That goes into a kiln, it's fired, and effectively becomes a pot. The wax melts out during the firing, so you'd invert it and pour the molten bronze into the gap left by the wax. Smash the ceramic off, and you'd have a bronze thumb. That's the same process that the Greeks used and the same process that the Egyptians used. It's considerably more complicated with the sculpture because we have to make the wax hollow, and that requires all kinds of engineering issues about supporting the core and that kind of thing. But the process is exactly the same as the Greeks used, the Romans used. The materials have got purer, but the process is the same. And in order to preserve the integrity of the sculpture, I try not to make more than 12 or 15 copies from a mould. So, and we're calling that a season. So each one should be perfect. There should be no degeneration in the mould. Traditionally in a mould, if you put number 1 copy with number 20 copy, you'd see quite a difference. You'd see an erosion. It's rarely do the two things come together, but if you did, you would see an erosion. But to combat that, I only want to make sort of 12 or 15, and then we go back to a new master and a new mould. And in order to keep track of that, we do it in seasons. So if somebody buys number 8 of a season, it's only the 8th cast ever taken from that mould, so it should be impeccable. And the patina will remain the same over the seasons. It may evolve artistically, and we'll try to group that into a season. But the reason for doing the seasons is to keep the integrity of the bronze. It isn't actually associated with the colour. But if we do at any point want to do more than one colour of a sculpture, which is always an option when you're experimenting, you just find lovely things sometimes. And so we'll say, okay, well, we found this lovely patina, but we'll use that for a later season. The issue of doing them in seasons is to do with the quality of the metal, not to do with the patina. I think there's been some confusion.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I'm just wondering, because clients really do love your patinas. I mean, over and over again, they comment on how unique and extraordinary this actual color is. So if we're getting work in that's a different color, but they actually prefer this.
I was just saying, if somebody really wants what we're going to do with the new photography, we will make it very consistent. But I would like to keep within the offering the idea that some patinas are unique items. Because it's such a experimental medium, and sometimes you just discover lovely things, and they're not always what you want. But just we could perhaps resolve that by keeping those as artist copies. By saying it's a gorgeous patina, I can't bear to strip it off. We'll keep that as an artist copy, so there's only ever one. But we wouldn't illustrate that in the catalogue. If the client sees it in the gallery and loves it, that's the beauty of it.
So we need to be clear about offering the piece in the patina that's in front of us, and that's just the way that it comes. Even though we know in the next quarter that same piece will be offered in the patina that they might be asking for. We have to sell what's right in front of us in the patina that it's in.
Yes, but I will endeavour to keep them very, very similar, which I haven't been actually trying to do until now.
Okay.
It's because I'm saying when we're making them in the UK, these pieces really were made for the UK. That's why they're in these small editions.
Okay.
So we haven't really had the issue of having to match a catalogue image in the way that you do.
Okay.
When we have a catalogue image, it's to sort of illustrate the shape of the sculpture rather than the colour. I'm completely new to the idea of selling things via the internet, which you seem to be able to do. I can't imagine anybody in the UK doing that. Just seeing it and saying, wow, I'll have that. They would want to come and poke it.
Most people want to see the artwork.
Yeah.
That's the way it happens here too.
So I can, going forward, I can make sure that the patinas are very close to the illustration, close enough.
So you're going to continue doing pieces that look like this one.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that dark patina that's on the bathers?
No.
Okay.
No, that's,
Good. Okay, great.
Those were a very sort of traditional offering
okay.
for sort of ballet.
Okay.
But these are my specialist thing. We were in two minds about sending those, but Kim liked them. So,
Okay.
this is where I am. This is where I am. And I will endeavour to make them even richer in Russia
Wonderful.
as we go on, and consistent.
Right. And I think the thing is the people I was referring to had fallen in love with these ones that they saw, but then they wanted me to send them images of them.
Yes.
And then I sent the images, and then they said, well, this looks different. And so that's when it all started
Which
getting
piece was that on?
complicated. The fairies,
Oh, yeah, the fairies
Yeah.
are not
which are
correct.
very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, but
from
then,
what
yeah,
you
the,
get.
the colour, that's just a matter of costume. The colours are the same, actually, but she has a green costume.
Right,
as opposed
right.
But the green and the brown are the same, they just,
Well, it looks a
in a
lot
different-
lighter in the photographs.
Much lighter.
The
Oh, right.
images that we have, much lighter, about maybe a quarter of that shade.
right. Well, I think that's the photography. I think that's
Oh,
the
okay.
difference between one screen and another. And so I'm not sure how we can resolve that.
Yeah.
It's-
Well,
That's a kind of Photoshop issue.
I'll show you
Yeah.
the image that we have, and
Yeah.
you can see the difference.
Yeah, but going forward, we can match,
Right.
match the two things.
The other question I was going to ask you was, I noticed on the new pieces, or at least new to us here in Wailea, the opal and the grace,
Yeah.
is that the texture was different.
Yes.
That they don't have the really almost porcelain-like.
Yes,
skin on the edge.
I approach it in two ways. These are they still have the tooling on them, which is a different effect. I do the tooling. I do a very high smooth finish, and the tool, but they'll be of the new work. It's approximately half of each.
Okay.
So
So you
it's-
continue to do
yeah,
both.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it appeals to different tastes, and also the texture affects the colour dramatically. So you can play lots of different games with a texture. You get different colours and different subtleties, and on a high surface you get a different palette. Exactly the same application on two different surfaces will render a different colour. It's really quite interesting.
Okay.
But it is controlled, and I will endeavour to control it.
If we can go back to the edition sizes again, is that something that other artists do or is traditional?
Yes.
'Cause- Offering these editions of the same piece in different colors?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think from your point of view, you need to know how many sculptures there are in edition. So if we do 4 editions of 12, it's an edition of 48.
Right.
And that's what we. But for the quality purposes, we're making them in sets of 12 to ensure the quality of the metal.
Okay.
That's-
Somebody
that's-
might see a piece in the gallery here in January this month,
Yeah.
and then we do a lot of follow-up, and we might close the sale in August.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we might have a situation where we can't really promise the same
But it would be exactly the same.
color, the same.
No, the colour remains the same. I'm not changing the colour.
You're not
Oh.
changing the
I'm not
color?
changing the colour, no.
Oh, we understood that the seasons were a different color.
No, no, no.
Oh, wonderful, that
No,
changes
no, no, no,
everything.
this
Okay.
This was a confusion we've had. What we said,
Oh, okay.
because obviously
Low battery.
we're working through this. That
That changes everything.
there is an option to do that
Okay.
if that was seen to
Okay.
be.
So this is just about keeping the mold's
about
integrity?
keeping the colour will remain the same.
Oh, okay,
Got it.
got it, okay.
Yeah. That
That-
said, if
right.
somebody, providing they're prepared to wait, if somebody sees, this colour on that sculpture, we can do that. If somebody specifically loves that colour and that sculpture,
Okay.
but you need a client with good judgment. But if they want it, we can do it. But for consistency, the colour remains the same. It's only the moulds that change.
Would you
That's-
like
that's
us
the
to present your work when they're looking at it? Like, this piece is an edition of 45?
Yes, or 48, isn't it? It's four sets of
The
12.
full edition?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. But it'll be numbered. 1 to 12.
But it'll be
screen,
numbered
1
1
to
through 12 screen, okay.
No.
So
Yeah,
we can
that's caused-
explain that
that's
to the
caused a lot-
customer.
That's caused a lot of confusion.
Yeah, I think it was explained a little bit
Yeah,
differently,
yeah.
or maybe we
I mean,
understood it
you-
differently.
Yeah, to some extent, we maybe didn't need to do that because that's a kind of internal quality issue.
Right.
But, you know,
But it's good to explain to people so they understand why it would be, when we say it's edition 48 and it says 7 of 12, say, then they could go, I don't understand, it's spring,
Yeah.
okay. It
so,
makes,
so we're only going to make 12 copies from a mould and throw it away.
and say,
That will keep them perfect.
and say someone wanted a different patina, would there be a supplemental charge then
No,
or
it's
something?
the
Same
same.
charge?
Just- but there
But
would be a
it'd
waiting
maybe
time.
4 or 5 months.
Not so much, probably two months.
Great,
Okay.
okay. That answers a
I
lot
mean-
of questions.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, hopefully there won't be too much of that because it causes also because people see it and then they want it and they do it. But if somebody is very specific,
Okay.
and we quite often, I don't know if it applies here, but quite often in the UK we get asked for particular numbers to do with anniversaries.
Oh,
So you know, if they were married on the 12th or so 12, they might want 7, 12. They might want a particular number.
Right.
So we've done that in the past as well. That can
Okay.
be quite a nice.
What is your, what would you say is like your main inspiration for your work?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, is there anything that really, like, why do you sculpt? Or
Why?
why do you sculpt these figures that you sculpt?
Well, this is a 3 bottle of wine conversation.
Oh, okay.
As I started sculpture, I was doing studio pottery. So I was a very, very awkward student. And all I would do when I was a little baby student is I would make pots and I would do life drawing. I wouldn't do anything else. I was a real nuisance. And I gradually blended the two things together and made clay. Well, you're usually ceramic. You know how straightforward that process is to draw it, clay, and then it's 3D. I've made a study of. It's a complicated subject. The studies in stillness, I guess,
Oh,
in the absence of movement. I think that what makes a piece of sculpture is balance, form, and structure. Those 3 things, and they're entirely abstract things. Because I treat the patinas as an abstract concept, and the form is abstract as well. All the decisions you make on the form, whether with this and that, are all entirely abstract. You can take any piece in the figure and do anything from the whole abstract. All these decisions about feathers and that are all entirely abstract, but they're just contained in the distance. And that's been my fascination, because I think that on attention to get it right. The most interesting part of the sculpture is when it's the most hard thing. Now, turn my light off in the studio. I can't do it. And it's all coming. I can't get it. In my mind's eye, I can overlay onto it when I really look at the thing. I don't want it to come. But that's the most amazing thing. Because when you all the sculptures, I see it because I was actually. All these things are abstract. It's completely abstract. It gets something to be bound in a discipline. I don't even give it a discipline anyway. I think all these decisions in modern abstract decisions are going to be bound within a discipline. And they're bound within a discipline of a loose reason, which is very as a document, as a what's an entirely abstract into, and I find that in dance, I find it important for me. And I think when I get an instruction in hand, it's like a filter rather than just a purely line. The hands have the same language as the paper.
so many people comment on the hands and that they like poetry.
This is where you are with the sculpture. through the shape, but trying to make the drapery echo the figure in an abstract way. And the patina is part of that illusion.
Is the mythology of the character, like, of each one of them important to you when
Yes,
you're doing
it is.
it? Are you
Yes,
thinking
I
about
think-
that, or
I
do you name
think-
it afterwards?
It tends to evolve together. I love those sources of Greek and Shakespeare in particular, because they're just eternal stories. The human condition is exactly as it was. That's the lovely thing. I think when you look at ancient things, the thing that always strikes me is how similar to us they were, not how far away. There's a fantastic mummy in the British Museum with Ramesses, and he's laid out there from Egypt, and he's 2,000 years old. And he's laid out in a glass case, and there's school kids going around with lollipops and all this stuff. But in his lifetime, it was death to look into his face. Hence all those Egyptian masks. And there he is. And he's just a little guy. And just like we are. And you can see his humanity as we are. That's where the Shakespeare and the Greek myths they all tell the same story. It's all love and death.
That's life.
That's what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions? That was wonderful.
That was outstanding.
Really wonderful.